you about resources for asylum seekers and other immigrants.
My name is Laksha Dantran, and I am an asylum applicant. I came to the US on a work visa in 2017 and was working as a dance instructor. I was fired and evicted by my employer, and I have been waiting for a hearing with Immigration Services since August of 2017. Applying for asylum is not only a long process, but that's the thing I feel a person can go to the lower level just for their life. I have to wait 3 to 4 years before I know if I will be able to stay in the country. I have had access to some services that help me eat and access healthcare, but there is no help for making sure that I have a safe place to live. For the past year and a half, I have been struggling to find steady housing and employment. I have worked with various refugee assistance organizations. As a visible trans woman, finding safe housing has been very difficult. I applied with the Chicago Housing Authority, but they would not accept my application because I am not a US citizen. I have been staying in a shelter for over a year, but I do not always feel safe in a shelter. I have no place to leave anything and worry about even carrying a little bit of money or a phone with me. Being housing insecure, trans, and an immigrant often makes me very vulnerable. I have been the target of sexual abuse and 2 robberies in the past year. It is extremely difficult to search for a job while in this situation, and I often feel lost. My story and the stories of many other immigrants and refugees show we face many barriers preventing us from living healthy and dignified lives. We are asking for the city of Chicago to support our struggles. How will you, as a mayor, make Chicago welcoming to all immigrants? How will you assess that you are removing barriers affecting immigrant communities? Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank you for your courage in sharing your story with us. As the first LGBTQ plus person ever to be on the ballot for Mayor of Chicago, I want to make sure that you understand personally your issues and my issues, and I will do everything I can to be supportive. I also just want to, we can talk offline, but I think there are some services that you could access that would help absolutely willing to make sure that we connect you up with them. Look, I want to give you context as to why these issues mean so much to me beyond what I've already said. I have spent years helping support the National Immigrant Justice Center by helping them raise literally hundreds of thousands of dollars so that they can support the work of helping immigrants going through the Byzantine and often cruel immigration court system. I will also say that I have represented an immigrant from Liberia who was a victim of torture. And so there's much more work that we should do. We have to obviously get rid of the exceptions to the welcoming city ordinance and do more. But I'm happy to talk to you.
Okay. Look, there's laws in the United States, there's laws in every country that you go to. I can promise you as a human being, I was born in America. There's some places that I cannot go today. I'm going to be quite honest with you. I'm very sensitive to that. I will do everything I can do to help. I just happen to have a Asian friends here because I do a lot of business international as well. So I know the struggle with back and forth. By being discriminated against as an African American, I will work hard to help you within the laws of these United States of America. I think it's got to be communication with one another as well as actually in a country like such as China and Korea and things of this as well. If I've not been going through it in the past in terms of discrimination, or going through it today, then I wouldn't know. But if I do go through it, there are certain things that we're trying to find today that people going in there. We will work hard.
I want to thank you for sharing your story. Being an asylum seeker is a difficult thing. I have friends who sought asylum here, and it takes a very long time. Part of what we have to do is to make sure that we streamline that process so it's not taking 3 to 4 years. This means getting access to better lawyers, better attorneys that can work specifically with individuals to navigate the process. Anyone who's worked in the immigration space knows that it's hard to find good lawyers. It's hard to find lawyers who will not take advantage of individuals who can actually work and handhold them through the process. But the other thing that we can do as a city is to use the mayor's office to increase funding for the organizations that are at the front line of doing this work, which are often based in communities. They have to have the financial resources to provide the job connection services, access to housing, and so on, the things that you need to be able to navigate the city. And finally, there is an issue with CPD and addressing the issue of sexual-based abuse and offenses that people experience. And that has to be addressed head on. I've worked in that space for a while with Black trans women being murdered across the city and not being taken seriously. So those are the things that we should focus on.
Hello, my name is Kate. I'm from Ukraine, and this is the Walker. He's from Nepal. We're students at Lakeview High School and are part of Advancing Justice, Chicago's kinetic program. We are here with our English learner class. Shout out to our class.
When I say immigrant, say power. Immigrant.
Power!
Immigrant.
Power!
Immigrant.
Power! In our class, we have students from 12 countries who speak 16 different languages. Language access is an important issue for us because it is something that our family deal with every day. For our parents, the little things are the big things. Reading a CTA sign that is only in English and not understanding what it says. Calling the insurance company with a question and having no one there who is able to speak our language. Sometimes I miss school to go to the hospital, DMV, doctor with my parents so that I can translate for them. I personally have had experience with my parents needing me to translate medical and legal forms, but it's hard because I don't know some words connected to the law or medicine on the form, so I can't translate those things. And we worry they might miss important information. Many parents feel like they can't come to school events or parent meetings because they don't speak English and know there will not be an interpreter. Oftentimes, CPS will use students as interpreters and translators, pulling us out of class for multiple times and periods. Sometimes we will get asked to translate between counselors and families, and we'll learn personal stuff about other students at our school, which is uncomfortable. This should be the responsibility of the school district, but instead the responsibility is put on us, the students, and we don't think this is right.
The current Chicago Language Access Ordinance does not cover emergency services or public schools. In addition, the city is not required to provide funding for government services agencies to make service accessible to limited English proficient residents. Do you support amending ordinance to include funding, provisions, and to cover emergency services, public schools, and all other government agencies? How would you ensure that government agencies actually implement changes required by the ordinance? Thank you.
And for this round of questions, we're going to start with Paul.
Baptismal in fire. First of all, I apologize for being late, sir. The traffic was horrendous. I tried to make every one of these events, even the ones I hadn't been invited to. Look, when I ran the Chicago Public Schools, we worked to provide language assistance in all categories, and we did it through the local school councils. The approach was to have local, to create school and community centers that would be able to have individuals there who can not only help translate for parents and provide parents with the services, but our Office of Language and Culture, and some of you may remember Armando Amadeus, who headed the Office of Language and Culture, we would publicize or we would translate documents in multiple languages. My approach would be to make this a priority. I mean, it should be funded. I mean, all departments and all city agencies should be able to provide access. And part of this is not only making sure that materials can be translated, but part of it is working with the community to identify individuals who can move into those departments who are bilingual in multiple languages. It wasn't uncommon for me to have 28 languages spoken in a single school. So it's just a matter of priority. Sorry about that. Rookie error here.
Okay. One of the things that I must admit to, I don't know all the problems that exist. But what I would do is set up a department in City Hall to make sure we have different people from different countries, different nationalities, hire a person who could be in charge of people from Asia and different places around the world to help communicate. Because when I go to overseas, I have to always have somebody with me to know which way to go, how to negotiate things, and otherwise that I would be lost, all right? So we would have to be very sensitive to that. Set up an assistant, but hire someone who head up that department. So that way, by hiring somebody to head up that department, we can do a better job and making sure things work. That would be my answer to it. Because when you don't know, you just don't know.
So I thought I was fluent in Spanish until I tried talking about public finance in Spanish. And you really learn how difficult it is to be an actual translator. One of the things that I think CPS definitely needs to do is to have a pipeline of translators that are constantly flowing into Chicago Public Schools. It has to be a priority, and we have to create the infrastructure around it. Second is making sure that we have strong relationships with our local consulates. They can provide individuals who can offer translating services. I think we can leverage them much more strongly around the city. The local consulates serve as a significant resource. I know I've used them many times or engaged with them many times. And finally, I've always thought that we should have a core of translators that are connected with the Office of International Affairs, where we can have individuals who can volunteer to be translators at large for the city. So whenever we have translation needs, we can actually deploy them to wherever they're needed. That's something that I would want to do as mayor.
The diversity of language in our city is one of our great strengths, and we should celebrate that, not make it an impediment to people getting access to needed information. And of course, we should never, as the testimony pointed out, put children in the position of having to be translators for serious adult matters, or where they're having to find out confidential information about somebody else. So we need to empower a core of advocates. But I think where we start, and what I would do as mayor, is hire a chief diversity officer and have a real office so that we can really harness the power of the diversity of languages and cultures all over our city, and make sure that when we are introducing new policies, policy that is through that equity and inclusion lens. And of course, language access has to be a top priority. That's what I would do as mayor.
Thank you so much. Moving forward for each question.